All right, people that want to start making lots and lots of splits, I'm going to talk about a little bit of high production. These are for grafted cells. These are roller cages. You can put 22 of these in your incubator. And I'm going to show you a cheap way to make hundreds of splits. This is an incubator. Get all the pieces. Let's see if you can see it. Put the camera up here. Turn it down to see it. This has got the controls at the top, the thermostat, everything. Let's see if I can get the opening here. You see the piece inside. You stack all these pieces here. These all go inside. These are your roller cages. And this is an inside thermometer. And it's got one on the top. Now, this has a capacity of 500 cells. That means if you want to do production, this back, you can see it. Got the thermostat on top. You can buy the adapter. This is 110. Here's an adapter. You can see it. That adapter will plug into your truck. And get up here. These are you graft your cells and you put your cells in these protectors. And these protectors keep your queen from being killed. And this is actually one of my students that I trained about 4 years ago, and he brought a bunch of cells over. I like to cut my cells personally, but these are grafted. And there's 22 on this bar, and you can put at least 10 in there. This unit here is a chicken incubator. You can get that at Tractor Supply, I think it's $39. He brought me over about 130 cells. And usually when you get cells from Buddy, you can expect maybe 10% that don't work. Well, I had a student here from Missouri. I had a couple here from Oregon, a couple other states. We went out to a nuke that was marked as a nuke ready to pick up. And the nuke was 5 frames, solid. And it had 4 frames of a lot of brood. And I asked the student, now, how would you sell that? He says, well, it's ready to go. And I told him about the cells. I took a 5-frame nuke and I made 6 splits. I put 5 nukes in front of the box that I originally done. I pulled every frame out and I went over and got a frame of honey and put it back in the original nuke. Then I caught the queen and put her back in there with the entrance reducer. I'll let them sit there for a few minutes to get the field bees back, take care of the queen. I put 4 frames with just starter strips in. Then we moved all these 5 splits to different locations. Some was 3 foot away, some was maybe 50 foot away. And then I showed him we put a cell in each one. And with the amount of brood on there, when that queen hatches, goes out and mates, I'm going to have basically about 1 pound to 3 pounds of bees in that hive. So that is one way. You can basically do the same thing with cut cells. But the only problem with cut cells is you get such a big plug, so they're not going to fit inside this roller. That roller is probably a 1/2 inch in diameter. And when I cut plugs to make splits, I'm doing the size of a $50. That way I don't injure the queen cell. Now, before I get on a whole lot more, just what I've covered so far, people are going to ask questions. So let's get the questions started. And what I took is a 5-frame nuke, and I made 6 splits. And I know you're sitting there scratching your head. You can't make 6 splits out of a 5-frame box. But I just explained it to you. So now I want you to ask questions, and we'll fill in the blanks.
All right. Joe Millwood, go ahead.
Not really sure what to ask yet. I'm still letting all that percolate. But
should we come back to you, Joe?
yeah, come back to me.
This here right now, just what you heard, I have a lot of people come here are an experienced beekeeper, and they'll tell you, and you can hear it on some of the things. When you go to most places, you get a little garden hose with a trickle. When you come here, you get a fire hose that'll blast you so hard you can't digest. Now, I'll go over the same thing that I just said, because I know I'm probably talking too fast. I had a 5-frame nuke with some students here, and I asked them, does that look like a good, strong nuke? And they said, yes. I took that 5-frame nuke, and I took 1 frame and put it in each nuke. So I had no frames left in the nuke, the original one. I replaced it with a frame of just honey. And then I picked the queen out of one of the nukes that we just made the split. I put her back in the original box. Now I got all the foraging bees coming back. Okay? Now we take the queen cells, that these are grafted cells right here, and we put 1 cell on each frame. We leave it that way. When the queen comes back, she's going to bring a whole bunch more bees. That's where you can take a nuke, right at that time was worth 175. Now I took the 175, 5 times 175. Okay? But there's always that risk. If I don't have a queen that returns, then I have a frame there that has no queen, or maybe part of the bees is gone. So now that you've digested that, now you can rethink that.
All right. Andrew Kirk has a question. Go ahead.
First of all, hello, Don. How are you doing?
Okay.
My first time on.
Good.
So I've seen bees tend to swarm prior to the capped queen cells being fully mature. Is that something you've seen? Is it something you see less in nukes? Because I had a hive I was planning on cutting a queen cell out of that should have been about 2 days from being mature, and they swarmed on me overnight.
Well, more than likely, was you running a double deep?
That wasn't a double deep. It wasn't my
Okay.
hive, so that wasn't my choice. I got all my stuff in 5-frame now.
All right. Well, if you don't examine that hive really good, you could have a queen cell right at the sidebar, and you can hardly see it, especially if you've got a well-populated hive. So you have to watch. When you pull the queen cell out, or you pull the queen out, within just a few minutes, it'll start to be buzzing, so it gets noisy. More than likely, you had more than 1 cell in there.
There were quite a few, but there must have been one that I missed.
Okay. Well, if you missed one, the first one out is going to start running around.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to end up queenless, and I got the swarm, so it wasn't a big deal.
Okay, when you get a swarm and you put it on the ground, don't let them just walk in the box. Let a few bees start walking in and keep inching your box back a few inches at a time. That's going to spread that swarm out on you. You're going to find more than 1 queen there. More than likely,
Okay.
this time of the year, you'll probably find a half a dozen or a dozen.
Wow. I should have done that. I'll do that in the future.
No swarm has 1 queen in it. Even when we graft, we're going to pick up, when 1 queen goes out to mate, she's liable to join up with 2 or 3 other swarms.
So my next question then is on splitting. When you're doing a split with a queen that you've cut out of another hive, a queen cell that you've cut out, what's the timeline on that look like? If I'm pulling a frame of honey and putting a queen cell in with that, when should I see eggs, and when should I be looking to add those other 2 frames?
Well, we was talking about grafted cells. If you're talking about a cut cell, unless you know exactly how old it is, or you can recognize when it's going to, hatch out on you, what you'll have to do is just go in and check it.
And then when I see eggs, add those second 2 frames.
Well, you
you
could add 2 more frames of foundation, because when a fresh swarm comes back, they're going to build a lot of comb.
Well, I'm talking about here where the split that I'm doing where I've cut a queen cell out.
Okay, well, if you cut a queen cell out, you don't need brood, you don't need no pollen, you don't need nothing but a frame of honey and shake some bees in it.
Okay, and they'll just build out from there?
Yep.
Cool, that's easy.
Yep. That's easy. I try to teach everything
I
common
misheard something
sense.
you said, and I was making it hard on myself.
Well, it's just like when a swarm hangs in a tree. A lot of people will put their box right underneath it and shake it into the box. Nature is going to, they're going to have more than one queen in there. I like to shake them, get them on the ground, and let them start to walk in the box. And once they start to walk, then start edging it back so that they have to spread out a little bit. And you can see the queens one after another. They're not going to kill one another until they get in that box.
So, and then my last question here that's splits related, and then I got one on training as well. When you're building out one of your bee yards and you're going to be making up nukes, what's the ratio of 5-frame nuke hives that you have to 8-frame hives that you're pulling frames out of?
Right now, we probably got 200, 300 nukes, and we probably only got about 20 8-frame. Now, that's for this yard here. This is a teaching yard. So my out yards right now, we're getting shaking. So we're going to several yards, and we're running double deep 8s. And we go there, we try to shake 2 to 3 packages twice a week.
Okay.
That's strictly for shaking. It doesn't have nothing to do with this yard.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
And my last question is, I'm planning on coming down for some training either late this year, early next year. What's the nearest hotel so I can look at hotel prices?
Commerce, Cornelia, Gainesville.
Cool, thanks.
Okay.
I think that's all I've got for now.
Okay.
I'll probably have more later.
Okay.
All right. Joe, do you actually have a question now?
Yep, I do.
Go ahead.
It was what I had originally, but he blew my mind there with that other for a second. I made splits the way he was talking about, cutting taking the queen cells out,
Mm-hmm.
the swarm cells.
Yes.
And I didn't catch it. It swarmed on me before I removed the cells. I made 3 splits, and I left 1 cell in the hive that swarmed. Each one had a cell. That was on the 12th. On the 17th, I checked them, and the cells were gone. I'm assuming that they hatched out and they're out mating now. Or what would you?
Well, have you done cutting cells out and have any experience with that?
I actually didn't have to cut them out. They had 1 on each frame.
Well, then
I just put a frame of
the
brood in.
easiest thing to do is just move the frame. But
Right,
I'll
that's what
show
I
you on this protector now. This is just a plastic protector. If the queen hatches the bottom, it's going to be a perfectly round hole. She's going to come out. And sometimes there'll be a little trap door or a flap on the bottom. Now, if you got more than 1 queen in there, you're going to find where they chew the side out right here. They'll chew a side out, the queen will stick in there, and she'll sting that other queen. That's how they eliminate the competition. But if you got a frame and you're not cutting cells, look for that open cell. Okay, that answer it?
Well, they're gone now. Does that mean? I mean, they cut them down after the queen hatches out. Do they remove that?
Usually they'll start to cut the complete cell down, but not all the time. Sometimes they'll wait a few days.
So at this point, I should just assume that the queens are mating right now, and probably in a week or so before they start laying.
Well, even if your box, all the bees leave, don't give up, leave the box there. Sometimes where the weather is, the bees might go out and mate if they go in the afternoon late. Sometimes they'll stay out overnight, especially if the weather starts to get a little bit cool. Never move a box for at least a week, because sometimes they're off for a day, sometimes 2 days.
All right, cool deal. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Darlene, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
John. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, we're doing good.
There you go. 2 things. One, I participated in a webinar from another group, and I have to tell you that no matter what you talk about, you always give us some positive outlook. It's always positive that, even though something bad might have happened, you give us positive. And I suspect that that's the way you live your life, and I thank you very much for that. Now that I've buttered you up, you use 7/16 crown, 1.5-inch staples that are cement coated, correct?
Mm-hmm. You have to hunt for them.
Okay. Well, see, no kidding. Okay, Porter Cable or Hitachi. which one of these staple guns do you use? That's my guess.
Well, I'm a cheap guy. Those are expensive guns. I go to Harbor Freight.
But I couldn't find anything that would work from Harbor Freight, or I just didn't look deep enough.
If you look up Kentech, which is Kentech, they have outlets all over the place. You can get any staple, any brad for any gun, and they have a what they call a comparison, which is an interchange. You can get any kind you want.
Thank you very much. And do your staples have blunt ends or chisel points?
Most of them, they look like they got a chisel point. But, you know, an expensive gun is not going to do you any more than a cheap gun. I mean, you can buy for a Porter cable, you can buy 9 or 10 Harbor Freight guns. I've got some Harbor Freight guns out there that might last 6 months and might blow an O-ring. I've got 2 or 3 out there I bought 5 years ago for $20, and they're still going. You got to put oil in, and you got to use the right oil. Do not use motor oil. Motor oil contains a detergent and dissolves your O-rings.
And we don't like detergents. We don't like detergents on our face either, but thank you very much.
Okay.
And I bought a $17.99 brad gun to use to put up the 5/8 brads.
Right.
$17.99 at Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And you get a coupon, you get 20% more.
Yes, sir. I got 20% on that. And so, but I thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Well, I hope that you have a good week.
You too.
Thank you.
Jojo, go ahead.
Hey, Don, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Good. Hey, I got a couple questions. On the split with 6 nukes, you created 6 nukes out of the 1 nuke.
Right.
Was it mediums or deeps that you were doing?
Either way, the one I done out here today was all deeps, and after they left, I have to work slow when I have students. After they left, I went out there and made another 20 splits.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. One of the other questions that I had, I've seen a lot of things on social media lately over the past week or so, talking about American Foulbrood and stuff like that. I'm currently using your brood formula and things like that. Is there anything else we should be doing at this point? Because, I mean, I saw multiple states where they're talking about outbreaks.
Well, a lot of times outbreaks occur because at this time of the year, everybody wants to get into beekeeping as cheap as possible.
Mm-hmm.
A new beekeeper, they look at the expense, so they buy used equipment. Maybe there's some equipment been stored in a barn. The person had lost the bees, really don't know nothing about bees, and just gave up. Normally, Foulbrood is not that prevalent. If you do run across it, don't even try to put any kind of antibiotic on it, tylosin, terramycin. If you have a positive case on it and you know what you're looking at, burn it. It's cheaper to burn than start over.
Makes sense.
That is one reason I'm running 200 to 500 hives here. I try to greet my customers, and I tell them on the phone, do not bring used equipment or comb on my property. Because if there's no honey flow, my bees get in the back of your truck and you got some old comb in there, maybe a little bit of honey, and you got Foulbrood, you can wipe out 300-400 hives in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think that was one of the concerns with one of the sites that I saw they were talking about in Iowa. The state inspector had spotted this, and the guy was getting ready to sell nukes, and he was 20 miles from this other guy, and he posted all the pictures that the state inspector provided to him. So that makes perfect sense to me what you're saying.
Well, when you're dealing with commercial people, sometimes it's just a tit for a tat. Maybe he's just trying to down somebody. You should have green, well, this year for this state is green, but you should have an inspection sticker. If you buy something from somebody, they should provide you with a health certificate or the actual paper. It's, you know, standard legal type paper, and it's all filled out with the inspector's number and the state and how many hives he's inspected. But you have to watch buying stuff from not registered so much as but people that are not real experienced. They buy junk, they build it up, or they catch a swarm or do a cutout with junk equipment. Yeah, it's a good way to pass on Foulbrood. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you can, be stung pretty bad financially.
Gotcha. So
if you go into someone's bee yard, you can usually tell 300 to 400 feet away they got Foulbrood really fast, because you will never forget the smell. It's very pronounced. It smells like rotten bananas. The closer you get to it, the more it'll gag you. Now, if you got a comb, you're looking at comb and you think it's got Foulbrood in it, and there's got bees in it and brood, just take your toothpick and pull the caps off and see if it's ropey in there. It'll look like snot's coming out. It's about the easiest way to kind of figure. If you're not real experienced, you can also send it off to the state bee lab and they'll give you a positive or a negative on it.
I'm just glad I haven't had an issue with it, but I want to make sure I'm ahead of it and on top of it, just because there's a lot of beekeepers around my area,
Right.
I
You have
know
to
that
watch
if I
for
do-
migratory beekeepers, because they're a truck running down the street with problems. That's the way I look at it.
Yep, that's what I've said too.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if I'm treating with that brood formula every third feeding, I'm probably good, or should I?
The brood formula is not going to cure or prevent Foulbrood. All it's going to do is build your bees. The tea tree oil keeps the nosema down, which is it's a gut disease. It gives them diarrhea or a dysentery. That's all that is.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought the tea tree oil actually would help prevent that.
No, it's going to keep the gut disease or, the diarrhea, basically. Bees can't get out, they'll get that. You'll notice that you'll have yellow streaking or big blobs of brownish yellow poop on the front of your hive.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Don.
Okay.
Okay, Brad, go ahead.
Hi, Don. First
Hey.
time on. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. Hope you're going to learn something here tonight.
I've already learned from you. I was down at your place. I got your stock about 3 years ago, and it's still doing very well. So,
Good.
I learned a lot from you. In fact, you had me sticking queen cells in my ears to listen to the queen. I didn't know if you were joshing me at the time or what, but I did
No.
learn a lot that day.
I try to teach basic stuff where you don't have to go out and buy fancy stuff. You should, you put, if this was the queen cell right here, it's a fact. If you put it in there, it's a ripe cell. You can hear the queen scratching or barely piping, making a little noise. I teach you basic stuff. It works.
I just used that last week. It was good to know when you put that queen cell in there that it was good.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing is you can hold it to the sun and put your finger on the sides of it, on the top and the bottom, and let the sun come through it. It's called candling. The people do it for eggs. You can actually see a ripe cell. The queen will be actually moving in there. You can see her moving around.
Yeah. I remember you showing me that, and I forgot about that. I'll have to do that again. So I had a question. I had a frame. It had a lot of swarm cells on it, and I saw one of the swarm cells that was tore down. But then I was walking to the back of my truck to get my steak knife to start cutting those cells, and I noticed that I heard a queen's piping.
Mm-hmm.
Could that have been when you hear queen's piping? Is that more than two, more than one, or could it just be one going around in the hive? Did I have more than two live ones running around on that actual frame at the time?
Usually if you hear them piping, they're a little bit older queen. They don't usually start piping right out of the cell. But it's very common when you got multiple cells on there to find 3 and 4 virgin queens walking this very same frame. It's also very possible you see a mother queen there and 4 or 5 virgins walking around. Sometimes they don't do battle for a while.
Okay. So if I cut all those out of there, and I knew I had the queen in the another part of the box there.
Mm-hmm.
I probably, when I put that frame back in there, I probably had some small other queens in there when I put that frame back in.
Well, always go through your box. The best thing to do, I try to teach my students to do a cutout or a change out, which all it is entirely take the original box and set it across another box and put a brand new box in its place, frame by frame, go through it. And then look at the bottom of the box, and if you got any beetles in there, scorch them at that time. If you got cells, cut them out and move them. Make all your splits. 110 frame hive or an 8 frame hive could make as many as 20 splits.
Yeah.
Yep.
I made 7 last weekend, and they seem to be doing pretty good so far. I was a bad beekeeper this last winter. I had a box that had some frames in it, drawn out frames, and there no bees in them, and they were just there. And I did not have a mouse guard on them. Well, I got a mouse up in there, and with that mouse nest up there and with them peeing in there, cut that wax out. Is that wax any good, or should I discard that wax? And then
the wax itself is nothing going to be wrong with it. I mean, you run it through your strainer, you can, boil it a little bit. It's going to clean up. Has nothing to do with anything else.
So the mouse pee is not going to hurt the bees after I melt it down and make foundation back out of it.
No, it's going to purify, but that's the wax. You have to fix your box now.
Yeah.
The box has got that smelling. If you have peach trees around there, get a branch of peach leaves. But most people got pine trees around. I always tell them just take a bunch of pine needles and rub that box real good. The best thing to do is Clorox it first, then put the pine needles in. That descents all that other stuff. Clorox will sanitize it.
Okay, I just got done doing that. I need to go ahead with the pine needles then. I haven't done that yet. Okay. Well, that helps me out. Appreciate it, Don.
Okay, good.
Okay, Kim, go ahead.
What is a remedy to a laying worker?
Why would you have a laying worker this early in the season? You don't have more than one hive?
I've got 4 hives, but I caught a small swarm.
Yeah.
And the queen left, but she didn't come back.
Okay.
And it's just a small hive right
How long has that process been going on?
now. A couple of weeks.
The easiest thing to do without doing a lot of major things is take a frame right out of the center of one of your good hives, shake the bees off, and put it in the center of the other one. And see, if you got a laying work in there, more likely you're going to draw good queen cells. I've never been a big fan of taking a hive out and just shaking all the bees out. I mean, a laying worker can fly. Some people say they won't fly, they'll stay there. There's a lot of exaggeration in, beekeeping. I find the best thing to do is put a frame of brooding there. Nature takes care of itself if you don't try to push it. They remedy itself. This is when man gets in there and starts doing all his cures.
All right. Thank you.
If that don't work, next best thing is put you a queen cell in there.
Introduce it to her.
Yep, just put a queen cell in.
Okay. No problem.
Okay.
All right, John Roten, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, the last few weeks, the first time I talked, you couldn't hear me. On a swarm like that, talking about all these queens in there, or I guess they're all virgin queens, aren't they?
Well, most people assume that they're virgins, but once a queen gets in the air, there's a great possibility that she's mated.
Well, do you normally take and cage those queens and make splits with them?
What we normally do is we'll put them in mini nukes, because if the queen is not mated, she's going to take bees out with her. And if they don't come back, you lost your resources. So mini nukes, we've gone through there and caught, well, Stephen, about a week ago, he caught quite a few queens in one. So just cage it up with no workers, stick it in a mini nuke or a 5-frame box, let them take care of it for, say, 4 days, direct release her, and then come back. She's going to fly out. If she's not mated, she'll fly out. If she's mated, she's going to start laying.
Okay. I took and I had my mini nuke frames in a bigger hive and put wax on it, and she laid eggs on it, and I pulled it out and shook quite a few bees in there with it, but they never drew any queen cells out on it. They just hatched out as workers. And I left it in there about a week, and they hadn't tried to draw any cells out for queen cells, so I put it all back in the big hive again.
Well, sometimes you have to swap frames a couple times. Once you start getting them to where they're making queen cells, you need one hive, like a 5-frame box, keep it crowded, cut your cells out of that. Once you got your frames, your little mini frames drawed, what Steven's doing right now is he's taking an 8-frame box and he's putting a divider in it. And he's running 16 mini frames over it. Once the bees come up and draw it out and the queen comes and starts laying it, he'll put one frame in a mini nuke and one blank on each side with a 1-inch starter strip. And then he puts about a cup of bees in there. And once the queen goes out and comes back, he'll usually hit it in about 4 days. And then he'll take 2 frames and make 2 more nukes and do the same process over.
Okay.
It grows pretty fast when you do that.
Yeah. One more thing. Didn't you say that you use a little bit of that eucalyptus oil to keep the hive beetles out of your hives?
We haven't done it this year, but I have done it 2 or 3 years ago. And I had talked to a guy that he was pollinating in California on eucalyptus, and he was telling me he never found any beetles. So something has to do with the eucalyptus. And I tried with the grease patty that we used to use years ago for trachea mites, and I just added eucalyptus to it. And I just rolled a little piece up like a little cigar and I stuck it in the back. And I don't know if it's the smell or what it is, but we didn't have beetles.
Well, how much would how I've been mixing my syrup is about 16 pounds of sugar and a gallon and a half of water. I tried it with a gallon of water and it started crystallizing in my feeders pretty quick. So I added more water to keep it from doing that. But I put in that solution, I put probably 4 drops of eucalyptus oil.
Well, now I wouldn't put a lot of eucalyptus oil in your feed because a drop of that is pretty important stuff. Spearmint and wintergreen is not as bad.
So you think that's too much?
I wouldn't use that much. I would use about 4 or 5 drops to about 15, 20 gallons of syrup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gonna hurt them?
Well, it's not going to hurt them, but it's pretty powerful. If you got a weak hive or a hive that's got a queen cell in it, you could run them out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Patricia, go ahead.
Hello.
Hey. Haven't seen you for a while.
Well, I had a hard time signing on this evening.
I guess too many people trying to get out at the same time.
Could be. But anyway, I went in my top bar hive yesterday and I cut out 14 queen cells and put them on frames and put them in queen castles and nukes, and things were going great. That went real well. Went out today, went into my next top bar hive and cut out queen cells, drove across the driveway, and 4 of them had emerged and flown away.
No, I don't think that's possible. I've never seen that.
Okay. We can't figure out what happened to them because they weren't open. We're pretty good at knowing when they're open and not open. So I don't know what happened. But my question is there some kind of contraption to carry queen cells in, or
the best contraption I've ever run across is a large Cool Whip container, and take an old t-shirt and double it over and lay it in there. And I've took 50, 75 cells in there. But I have had them hatch out right in the bowl. And that I've never seen one hatch out and fly. They might crawl out and run around your seat or something, or get up on your shirt when you're not seeing them, you know.
They could have crawled out on the back of the truck and we just couldn't.
They might have crawled and you didn't see them.
Yeah, we had a student out with us, and so we had a little extra help with it to make things a little more confusing. Okay, they've already emerged from that queen cell. Can I put that queen into the nuke?
I can run that.
I would take it, when you have them hatch out like that, I would put them in a cage with no workers and just put them in a nuke or whatever you want to put them in and leave them sit for 24 to 36 hours and then just direct release them. You watched queens that was rejected. You put the queen in there, virgin queen or even a mated queen, and watch the bees, how they feeding through. If they're feeding with their tongues through, that's fine. If you see them double up like they're trying to sting through it, then wait an extra day.
So
That's the easiest way.
Don't worry about candy and all that stuff. Just put them in there and hold them like a holding
Yeah.
cell.
Yeah, well, just you put them in a, I'm using Denton cages. I don't like plastic stuff, so I use the 3-hole wood cages.
Right.
Just put the queen in there, and I always carry corks in my pocket. I tell my students, always be prepared. I can reach my pocket now and get a handful of corks. Because if you have a situation in your yard and you're looking around for corks in cages, you're not going to have them.
Yeah, yeah.
But they will feed them through the cage. You don't need candy unless you're going to ship them.
Okay, so I just put them in there and cork them in and wait 24, 36 hours and go back and just release them that way.
Just pick the cage up and look at the screen. You can tell. They'll tell you what's going on.
Yeah, I know if they're taking care of them or not.
Yeah.
We've bought queens before and put them in. Okay, yeah, it was quite distressing. I don't know where they went.
Gives you gray hair.
We had a helper today, so I don't know. They could still be in the back of the pickup truck. I don't know.
They could be.
Yeah.
I've had them in a pickup truck for a day.
I'll have to go out and look tomorrow. Well, it rained pretty hard tonight, so they won't be much tomorrow.
You got $500 worth of queens running around your truck.
Probably. I'd never had that happen before, and I'm pretty good at judging when they're ready to come out.
Yeah.
They surprised us, or 4 of them got loose. So they went somewhere. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Bob Bumpke, go ahead.
Hi, Dawn.
Hey.
I'm a third-year beekeeper, and I got one hive. I'm doing it with my neighbor next door. He kind of got me into it. I've been wanting to do it for years, but never, just watched some video on TV one time, and I thought, man, this is way over my head. But anyway, I have a 110-frame deep hive, and it's an unusual hive because I got it from a friend of mine at work's dad does bees, and it's like the boxes are like 3.5 inches thick. And
it sounds like rough sawed wood, and you just butt jointed it.
Yeah. So I'm downgrading to 8-frame mediums because I'd really like to get to the point where I could sell packaged bees.
Okay.
And so what I did last night is I went through the hive, and I couldn't find the queen, but I could see where she'd laid fresh larvae in the top box. So I put the queen excluder between the bottom and the top brood box, and then I'm going to wait about, I don't know, a week and a half, and then take that bottom box out, and then set that top brood box onto a bottom board. And I already have medium supers on top of that. I got 2 medium supers on top of that they're already drawing comb out on.
Well, if you got a queen excluder there, the queen's not going to get through it to lay any eggs up there. When you take that medium off and set it on the bottom board, you're not going to have no eggs in it.
Yeah, because I don't want her to get back into the bottom box. So I have it between the bottom and the top brood box.
You got the queen above the queen excluder or below it?
Above.
Okay. Well, she'll lay in there, and more than likely when you isolate that, the bottom box, you go back in there about 10 days, you're going to have cells everywhere. You better get you about 40 more boxes.
Really? Queen cells?
Yeah. You can make queen cells really easy this time of the year, and a lot of people don't understand that. You take that queen and put her in a frame of honey or a box of honey and put a queen excluder over the brood box and set you an empty box and a box at the top with some honey in it and put the queen in there. She's going to stay up by that honey. And the bottom box is not going to get enough pheromones, and pretty soon you've got all kind of cells. It's just another way to make queen cells. I mean, there's many ways to do it.
Okay, because there's a lot of brood in that top brood box where she's been laying eggs and whatnot.
Yep. You better keep an eye on it. When you got that many bees, they swarm very easy.
Okay.
This is the swarming season.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed some swarm cells that we've knocked out because we're not quite, we're just doing this on our own, me and this neighbor of mine, and we're reading books and watching videos, and we don't really have them.
How many cells did you knock out?
Probably 4 or 5.
That's like throwing $150 in the ground.
I know. So the 8-frame mediums that I have, I just got them and I just put them together and got them painted. They don't have any drawn comb on them.
I don't use drawn comb.
So if there's a queen cell, I go out there in 10 days and there's more queen cells, can I just take those queen cells and put them inside that hive?
If you got a frame of honey to set them with, you need a frame of honey to wedge the cell against the side of the box.
Okay.
I've got 50 boxes out there right now at least. They got a 5-frame box and there's only 1 frame. There's a frame of honey, I shook some bees in there, and there's a queen cell. I don't run 5 frames unless the box is ready. When the queen comes back, I'll run 3.
Yeah.
It's
but all my
get in and get out of the box quicker.
Yeah. But those frames that I have, the frames in the 8 frames, they just have foundation in them. They don't have any, they're brand new.
Well, I mean, you got to have some drawn comb or plenty. If you got that many bees in there, they should draw a frame out in a day or day and a half. Where do you live?
Kalispell, Montana.
Well, I don't know what the weather is, but right now we're putting starter strips on deeps, and they're drawing it down halfway, usually in 24 hours. And done some mediums yesterday, and a medium, they're drawing it three-quarters of the way down. 4 frames of starter strip. Every area is going to be different, you know. One of my students came up from South Georgia, and the honey flow is not as good there right now.
Okay. So the top medium boxes, they've already started drawing comb out on them.
They're going to draw it out closer to where your queen's staying.
Yeah, so I could take those out and put them in the 8-frame and just replace them with empty, just empty frames.
Well, you want to frame in there with starter strips on them. At least give them a little direction to keep your comb from being all wavy and crisscross.
Okay. And then my other question is, this is crazy. I'm getting another package on the 6th of May. Another package because I want to split this hive into 3 other hives. And I'm getting another package of bees. Can I split that new package after how long after I get them can I split that new package?
Well, you can split them as much as you want, depending on your experience. But when you told me you got this big box and how full it is, you're looking at about 8 or 9 splits right there. You got that many boxes?
I got 4. I got 5 boxes.
You got more bees right now than you got boxes.
Yeah.
So why would you buy a package? That you're not making any money that way.
Yeah.
Unless you're buying different stock for some reason.
No, it's the same stock from the same guy.
But if you got a box that's that strong, you should be able to make a minimum of 4 splits off of it.
Okay.
Let them make queen cells. I mean, beekeeping is a learning thing. If you keep going buy queens or buy queen cells, you're not learning nothing. You're just spending money.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why I'm up here doing the whole idea. What I'm doing here, I'm sitting here trying to educate people so they don't have to spend their money.
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah. See, I talked to a lot of people, and they got bees. I had people come here today and bought bees, and they got my bees 3 years ago. And I looked right at them. I said, "Well, why are you buying bees? People are brainwashed into buying bees. You don't need to. Once you got bees, start splitting them."
Okay.
Bees reproduce, and right now with a honey flow, you can't build boxes fast enough.
Yeah, I guess my dilemma is going from that 10-frame deep to an 8-frame medium.
From what I understand, what you're saying is you got an old rough box that thick. The first thing I would do is get rid of it. The second thing is, because your age, you can't be moving that box. It's too heavy. The box alone is heavy. Then you put bees and honey in it, you're talking some weight.
That's why I want to go to 8-frame mediums.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, thanks, Dawn.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Joe May, first off, what are you building there?
He's making frames.
Making frames. Hey, beekeeper got to stay busy all the time. They ain't got time to make in the daytime. Hey, getting ready to ship some nukes out, Don. I'm gonna cage the queens, make sure they don't get pinched in the frames. Is there any danger that when the client gets it, direct releasing that queen back in there, even though she's never been out of the box?
You are caging a queen and you're shipping it.
Right. Yeah, the whole nuke. I'm just caging her and putting her in the nuke.
We started caging queens 25, 30 years ago, mainly because the frames rock back and forth in shipment.
Exactly.
And if you cage the queen, even if you're shipping, you could get a queen from one hive, put it in between two frames, caged, and have a frame from 3 different hives and shake some extra bees in there. By the time it got to the customer, the pheromones, they'll accept it. You could almost direct release it. 99% of the time, you won't have a problem.
Okay.
Unless they get it the next day.
Yeah,
Most of the time, it's 2 to 3 days.
Well, this will be the queen that belongs in the box, so there's not much danger them balling her when he directs release her.
I would basically just don't put no candy in it.
Fine. No attendance and no candy.
Yeah, just put a cork in each end and face down. Stick it up in that honey band and wedge it in there.
Okay.
That's what we do. We wedge everything in where it don't move. You put that underneath that wedge bar, into the honey band, slide all your frames together where they're absolutely tight, and then you might have to put a 1-inch shim in the center of your frames on the opposite side just to hold them tight.
Yeah, that's what I planned on doing. I just wanted to make sure they wasn't going to ball the queen by any chance.
No, they won't do that.
Okay, that's all I got.
All right. Don Bomer, go ahead.
Yeah.
Nope.
Go ahead.
I told you 2 weeks ago that I had a top bar nuke that I put your package in that I got from Jim. I had that package for a couple of weeks before I was able to get it, before I was able to get my nuke built and everything. About 4 or 5 days ago, I went out and opened up the hive, and I had about 6 bars open to the bees, and there was inch and a half of dead bees in it.
Yep.
And they stunk.
Yep.
So I got them scooped out as best I could. Should I do anything else? Well, the bees seem to be doing fine other than that.
First thing I want to clarify, I'm not an expert on top bar hives. And when you do something like that, there's no way the bees can actually clean the hive. Okay. So when you dump that packaging there, and then the time frame, people don't understand. If I go to my bee yard and I shake a package right in front of you, and I think Al here, he watched us shake his package. He probably didn't have 8 dead bees in his package. But if he would set it to his garage for a week or two, as soon as I shake those bees, in that very moment, those bees are starting to deteriorate. They're dying. So the quicker you get it in, the better you are. And when you dump dead bees into even a Langstroth hive, if you don't have a large enough entrance, those dead bees in 4 days start to stink. You could run that whole hive out of there.
Okay.
I would have disadvantages of top bar hives. You probably need a frame holder to set all in frames in and get in there with a brush and absolutely do some house cleaning. Then put the bars back in there.
Okay.
But like I said, I don't know nothing about top bar hives.
I understand. The other question is, on one of your videos, I think you said you had your own formula for Mega Bee. Have you ever published that?
No, I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay, I understand. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, Don. I've been crowding my boxes to make the swarm cells. But if I don't have swarm cells, can I take a box that's not quite crowded, but I want to make it crowded? Can I take frames, chocolate brood from other boxes, take the bees, leave them behind, and put those in there and get that box really crowded fast to make swarm cells? Or is there a better way to do that?
It depends on how many hives you got. Anytime you start making cells, you're always running a risk. If you shake the bees off from 2 or 3 hives, you can mix the frames. And then when they start to get overpopulated, you still have a time factor. Some way is easier just to take your queen with one frame of brood and just move it from the original box and let all that other brood in there. Now you've got 4 frames in there. If you use an 8 frame, you're going to have at least 4 or 5, and they'll make cells. That's another way to do it.
Just let them make the cells. Okay.
Yeah. You can't push bees, but so much. Right now, it's easiest to make cells because we got a honey flow right now. Our problem right now we're having is we're looking through boxes and you can see a bee hatching, a baby bee right next to it. The one that's hatched out previous and they're backfilling right now. We have privet blooming right now, and this is the 2nd round this year that it's bloomed. So the weather's got everything messed up. And I dumped honey out here in front of some students today. I dumped a quart of honey in my bird bath, and there wasn't one bee on it. There was some yellow jackets and a hornet. They won't even take honey you dump out.
Yeah. Okay. When you do that, like you're saying, do you need to feed them real well? Feed them so they can feed that, make that queen cell?
If you get them crowded, either by feeding them, right now, they're more likely they might not even take the feed. There's so much coming in, they're going to get the real stuff instead of the artificial. You always take a time factor there. When they get crowded or they get honey bound, they start making cells. Some breeds of bees make them faster than others. In some localities, they make them faster. Sometimes at the edge of the mountains or in the mountains, they're a little shallower. Flatlands, they usually do a little better sometimes. It's just everything is localized weather.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And should I be? You said about your stock. Should I haven't brought a nuke or a package or even any queens into the yard for a while, for about 2 years. Should I be maybe bringing a couple queens in or trying to kind of mutt my stock up a little bit, or are they out getting mated with wild drones? Or what do you recommend there, or not even worrying about it?
Where you live?
Southern Indiana, right along the Ohio River.
Well, I mean, you're in an area where you probably got quite a few beekeepers. If you're going to sell your stock as general stock, it's a good idea to bring in some stock at least every 2 to 3 years, even if you just bought one queen. And if you don't want to buy a queen, you could buy a package, from somebody. And that's your best bet, is you're going to have a lot of drones in it early.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll do that then.
But usually your second going in your 3rd year, if you got your own stock and you just keep rebreeding, you're just breeding brother to sister, unless you've got a lot of bees in the woods or you got local beekeepers. You've got to get that variation in there.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I need to do that then. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Nana Pat, go ahead.
Yeah, it's me again. The guy with the top bar hives.
Mm-hmm.
Get a shop vac and vacuum up the dead bees. That's your biggest problem there. But I'm going to put my phone number on the Facebook page. Call me if you have any questions. I have 4 of them, and I can help you out.
Okay.
That's
Thanks.
all.
Anthony, go ahead.
Okay, let me unmute this thing here.
You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Good evening, Don. Good evening,
Good
everybody. You were just talking about splitting and all that stuff, and you might have just answered this question when you said get another queen after 2 or 3 years. My question was, is there genetic problems with keep using the same breed over and over again? I guess not. If you're saying you can use the same queen, the same brood, keep splitting, and use the same stock for 2 or 3 years, that's okay, I guess, from what I understand.
Well, if you're using the same queen, you can get by with that. Sometimes queens will perform best the 2nd year, but a queen can keep producing for up to 5 years good. But you're taking, what we're talking about is making splits. So if you're making splits, you've got brother and sister, you're moving into another box. And brother and sister getting together is not good. You can get by usually 1 or 2 generations, and usually by the 3rd generation, they start getting hot. Cheapest thing to do is buy a queen occasionally and bring some new bloodlines in.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. That's the.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question. I went to Chiang Mai University here during this week, and I met with the head professor of entomology, and it was pretty good. I got a lot of good information from her, and about what they're doing there with their research. And it was getting conflicting stories on the internet about whether we have small hive beetles and wax moths here and mites. And yeah, we do. So I put in the Joe May bottle beetle trap at the back of the bottom board.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm running into a little problem where I'm having trouble finding mineral oil here.
It's sold as a laxative in just about any country.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just some things I can't get here in Thailand, like Cheerios and so far mineral oil. Is there something I can use as a substitute that you can think of if I don't find mineral oil? I know other oils turn rancid and you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You
There's
know of
people that use olive oil. There's people that use different cooking oils. But like you said, it gets rank, you know, and usually 4 to 5 days it starts getting bad.
You can use Demacious earth in the bottom of them jars too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can get at the swimming pool supply. I haven't exhausted my avenues yet, but while we're on the phone, I just wanted to ask you, I might be able to find it here at the pharmacy or something. I tried a couple of pharmacies yesterday and they didn't have it, but okay. Another thing that I am not able to find here, and I went to several places, is tongue oil and even linseed oil I can't even find here. So,
well, tongue oil is for a preservative, for usually for wood.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to do with it, because another lesson learned for me is I mentioned that I had the sawmill down the street make 6 boxes for me and some bottom boards and some telescoping covers, which I thought would be, you know, really cheap, and it kind of is. But then the girl at the university said, well, do you know about Foulbrood? I said, no. And before, when I was getting started, I looked for Bangkok bee supply, Chiang Mai bee supply, many things that I put in to try to search to find. I couldn't get anything to pop up. There's actually a place right in the town that I live in here called Foulbrood, and I think their main business is selling the bee products, anything to do with wax and facial stuff, but they also do have a line of equipment, you know. I can buy a complete paint, not complete, there's no frames in it, but I can buy an 8-frame hive here, all painted, for $17.50. And frames, waxed and wired, are only 70 cents a piece from this place.
The thing, if you're going to try to expand, you don't want wires in your the wax. That's why I did a video on, if you want to cut cells, usually the best cells are over the wire. I used fishing line.
Yep, I saw that. I did see that. And actually, they have frames any way you want them. You can get them bare, starter, whatever. So maybe I'll just go to starter instead. I wanted to cut the screen, you know, to put over the hole. I got a couple of little holes I want to put a screen over. And another thing I can't find here is basic T50 staples. And I've just about run out of my choices there. I actually ordered T50 staples for a staple gun online yesterday, just so I can get them to finish what I want to do. But things are going well. I did an inspection yesterday, and the girl at the university really showed me, you know, what to look for mites, because one of the things they're doing is a research thing on mites. And when she took out the frame and she showed me, you could see them all, little white things all running around all over the place. So, yeah, but the hive that I have now is just crystal clean inside. So, and I looked really good when I inspected yesterday. So up to now, I don't have any beetles and I don't have any mites. Let me ask you one other question here. I think it was last week you just made a comment about, if you want bees, feed them sugar. Now, when I did my inspection yesterday, I noticed that a lot of the bees, they found the flowers in the trees because they're coming back with their little pollen sacs completely packed. Now, I did have sugar in that from when I first brought them home until they did orientation and found out where everything was. And now they absolutely know where it is. But every single granule of sugar was gone. So when I had the hive open yesterday, I put some sugar back in there. Now, is that okay? Because if they're going to eat it, is it okay to give it to them? Or once they're flying home with their legs all packed, should I just stop the sugar and let them do the thing on their own?
Well, if you're seeing pollen in the pollen sacs, that doesn't mean they're bringing anything else to eat. They're bringing pollen. Some plants put off pollen and don't put out much nectar. If they're taking sugar, that's telling you they need that to either draw wax or they're storing it.
Okay.
If there's a honey flow or any kind of nectar out there, they're not going to take the sugar. That's why I did a video on putting honey in a little squeeze bear and just run a little line across the entrance. If there's a honey flow out there, they'll walk through it. If there's not, they'll line up like a bunch of little pigs and just eat it up as quick as they can.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have for today so far. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Tim Harmon, go ahead.
How you doing, Don?
Okay.
It was great meeting you the other week when I came down and picked up the packages. And I enjoyed meeting you and your wife and everything. And I got those packages put in. I took the 2 queens and took some bees from one hive that survived the winter and made a couple of splits. While I was doing that, I pulled a frame out and it had a nice big old queen cell on the bottom. I go, okay. So I had to pull another box together and I split it again 3 times at one time. So it seems that so far everything's going good. I was going to go back in about 3 days to check to see if the queen was released, but we had rain move in. And so we had like 3 days of rain. So then look at 6 days. Well, I found out something. Bees don't slow down.
That's right.
And so I had to go and spend about an hour and a half out of each one of the frame boxes, cutting out excess cone and everything. So I learned a lesson from that.
Well, you see how fast they could draw a cone.
Oh, I couldn't believe how calm really the bees were, because I'm down in there cutting the stuff out, standing aside. I'm reaching down in the bottom where it dropped down, and I'm sliding my hands all the way down to the bottom, pulling the stuff out between the frames. And I could feel the bees on each side of my arm buzzing and everything. And I started thinking, I'm going to get hit. I know I'm going to get hit. And they never touched me.
As long as you move slow.
As long as you move slow. And I pulled them off and even shook them off, the bees off. I kind of shook it a little bit and to make sure I didn't pull the bees out with it, and set it aside and go to the next box, so on down the line. Well, yesterday I took my grandson down with me to inspect to see how they're doing and checking to make sure they had enough sugar water. And for just inspecting like that, he didn't want to wear his veil or anything. And I said, well, we're not going to go into the box. I hadn't been using mine. And when I installed, I only got hit twice. And when you're installing that many packages, I figured that was a pretty good ratio. And so he and I was going through checking, taking the top, lifting the top, see if there's any sugar water and everything's looking good. And on the last box, I was checking it, and he put his elbow down like that on the front top of the box beside me. Well, a bee came up over the corner. And when he did, he put his arm on the bee and it stung him. That's the first time he's been stung. He's 6 years old now.
Well, as long as he don't get no fear, he'll be a good beekeeper.
That's what I was concerned about, to him freaking out. And his eyes got real big. I said, what's the matter? I think I got stung. You sure? He lifted his arm off, and that bee took off. I saw the stinger. I said, let me look at it, because I saw the sting, and I reached and grabbed it, pulled it out real quick, just scraped it off, scraped it out. And he looked at me, and he goes, his eyes like he didn't know whether what to do. I said, oh, no, don't freak out. I said, this is the last thing. I said, you know what this means? He goes, what? I said, you're becoming a beekeeper.
Yeah.
He goes, what? I said, you just got initiated. And he got a big old grin on his face. And when we finished up, we went on up to the house. So he ran in the house, Daddy, I'm a beekeeper now. He said, you what? He said, I've been initiated. He's going around telling everybody that. And he goes, look, right there, right there. So I think I kind of curbed that little fear. So he's still in there. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know, I figured you'd get a kick out of a little story. And I wanted to pick up where because one of these days, all those bees are going to be his.
Yeah. Well, have you pointed out what plantain looks to them, and when you get stung, what to put that on?
I think I found some, but at the time I didn't have any, and I was looking around, couldn't find any, and so it didn't swell up too bad, and so I was going to try to find some tobacco and chew it up and put on there. That'll help draw out some of it too, from what I've heard. But
there's a lot of things people tell you, but if I can remember, next week I'll get a couple leaves of plantain to show people what it looks like. It's a weed, grows just about everywhere.
Well, I think I found something yesterday. I think I found some later on, and I brought it home with me to crunch up. And you've already got a video on that, and that's where I got that information from.
It works very well. I can attest to that.
I have a fella comes over here, carries an EpiPen, and he got hit in the neck. And before he could reach for it, one of my other students said, I got some tobacco. And I said, would he get stung? Because I didn't notice he got stung right away. And I took him over and showed him plantain. He put it on. He said, less than a minute, it stopped burning, and it didn't swell. It's a weed, grows everywhere.
If I were to get that and crush it up and maybe put it with some kind of coconut oil or something like that and keep it in a container, do you think that would keep?
Yeah, I've got a lady that made some jewel weed, and she made like a salve. Because I get on poison ivy, I break out real bad. And if I don't do something real quick, I'll end up going to the hospital. She mixes jewel weed with some type of oil and beeswax, and I got a little container. You just rub it on it, man, it's gone. And the same thing with using tinctures of propolis and stuff for your stings and stuff.
Well, I'm going to sit there and make some up and have it on hand where I can just dip and rub it on him, or even myself, for that, as far as that goes.
A lot of times people that make soaps and stuff, they have these little containers and have them mix you up some.
Hey, Tim, take it and put it in a blender and use rubbing alcohol. Put it in a bottle. It keeps for years.
Hey, okay. I was curious about alcohol, if it would dilute it or anything like that, so I'm going to give that a shot.
Make a salve out of it. I got a jar in my pocket every day.
And if you just grind it up with the alcohol, do you put anything else in it?
That's it.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, guys.
Okay. Angela, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you, Don, for allowing us, or for doing this. It's an honor to hear the hours of bee chat so far. I'm a new beekeeper, and I have a couple of things going on. I have packages coming from Rossman Farms in Georgia that have been delayed because of weather. And I also moved and inherited a well-established hive. It looks like it's been there for a couple of years, has like 2 or 3 deep on it. It's a 10 frame and 3 honey boxes. I need to split it because it's, from what I can tell of the first getting into it, it's clearly time to split it before it's a vacation. But I can't get a hold of any queens, and there aren't any queen cells that I can find so far. What's your advice? Do I give them some space until I can get some queens?
Where do you live?
Ohio, Central Ohio.
Central Ohio? You might try Joe Latshaw. He's got Ohio breeders up there. Joe May, he's next door in Indianapolis, and I've got 2 or 3 students in that area up there. You might contact them. I've got queens here on the table, but these are sold, and we got a backlog. We're running 2 to 3 weeks behind because so many people wanting queens.
That's what we're experiencing, because I'd ordered a couple of them with my packages, additional ones, and we've been delayed 2 weeks now in getting those.
If you got a hive that's that populous, why don't you split it 5 to 10 times?
And just do it without queen cells or queens?
They make queens, and more than likely, have you gone through the hives before?
I've only gone down the 3 honey frames so far.
You have to go clear to the bottom.
Okay.
What I would do, there's Southern Ohio beekeepers up there. Contact them. I think there's 2 or 3 people close to you that probably come over and give you a hand. But you need to go, especially if you just got that big hive, you need to go all the way to the bottom and have you at least 4 or 5 nukes. Because if you got cells in there and you're inspecting, it's the time to break them up.
Good.
So, you know, and then that's the time to start changing foundation or go do foundationless. Now, you can watch some of the videos that I've got, and if you're not a beekeeper that's been doing it very long, you don't have habits you're going to have to break. Most beekeepers take a frame and just lean it sideways, and they got wire in there so it's supportive. But if you do natural draw, the strength in the cells is vertical. You hold a frame vertical, it's got strength. You can turn it around this way, but if you lean it, it's going to bust off on a hot day right at the honey band.
Right.
And then I don't know if you've gotten stung before. If you're wearing gloves, you're going to have a higher rate of getting stung.
Learned that already.
All right, best thing to do is get those light dishwashing gloves, little latex ones, if you feel that you need some protection. Or if you want to go just bare hands, get some liquid smoke and rub on it. The main thing is don't let the bees think you're afraid. If you've got fear on you, they'll sting you more. And make sure you got a good baseball hats. For some reason, they like to get you across the bill here or across that little band in the back. I wear an old farmer's straw hat because it's got a wide brim. I can hold a frame up and I can take the brim just like this, a little movement, and move the bees out of the way. It also protects the top of your ears from getting sunburned.
Always good.
Okay.
So my other question is I have some 10 frame mediums and deeps. Have you had any experience with like splitting those down the middle and making them into 2 nukes, a double nuke?
Well, whenever you take any kind of hive, an 8 frame, 10 frame, 5 frame, and you make one split or divide it, you run a higher risk of losing the other one, the one that don't have the queen in it, unless you've got mated queens. That's why we use mini nukes or 5 frame boxes with 1 frame. The least amount of bees that fly out to mate with that queen, she's going to bring back more bees. So when you got a really strong 10 frame, you could be putting 10 pounds of bees in the air. And if a bird gets the queen and they don't come back, you lost enough to make 10 splits. So those are your things. The best thing to do is get somebody from a local bee club, work with you once or twice, teach you about working with your hive tools and things, and then you'll be good. But I would go to 8 frame stuff. If you decide you want to sell bees, you need to run deeps and mediums. Women like mediums. People that have bad backs or people that's got slight handicaps, they like all mediums. They got all one size box, all size frames. But if you're going to sell to commercial people or people that want to make honey, a lot of them, they want deeps.
Have you ever physically like put a barrier in the center of a 10 frame and made it into 2 separate nukes, like the same super, but 2 separate nukes with opposing entrances?
Yes, I've done a video on that because a lot of people inherit 10 frame stuff or they get to where they can't handle it and they've got a bunch of it. Rather than take a saw and try to cut it, they take a router and go down the center and put a 1/4-inch slot and just put a piece of plywood on the bottom and drill a hole on one side and one on the opposite side and use about a 1-inch hole, and you've got 2 5-frame nukes. And the size of the box you're talking about, you're probably going to need at least 5. And you don't have to run 5 frames in there. You can run 1 or 2 frames until your queen starts to lay, then add frames. Bees build wax. You don't have to buy the wax.
Do you have, like, I know the recommendation is always go get the cheap knockoff or extras paints at Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever. But if those aren't available, you're not finding anything good. Do you have a recommendation for a favorite paint?
For paint?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't buy paint. I usually wait till a store pays me to haul it off. But, you know, all you have to do is basically tell them you're a beekeeper and you have any old paint. And more than likely, they've got mismatched paint in there. And Lowe's, Home Depot, I've seen people pay $1 to $5 a gallon. There's no way I'll pay $1 a gallon for something they're going to pay someone to haul off.
Right.
Because they have to pay a hazmat man to come and get it. Tell them you're a hazmat man. And that you're going to properly dispose of that paint. You see all the different colors in my yard? Yeah. Isn't that paint properly disposed of?
Properly.
Yeah, see?
Awesome.
But you can always get on I got a group on Facebook. We have a good discussion going a lot of times. You can ask questions. Sometimes I don't get on there every day because I got a job. I work daylight to dark out here in bees. But I try to get on there because if we get extra packages of queen, I'll put a thing on there, and usually within a half an hour, you know, everything's gone.
Mm-hmm. I think those were all of my first questions.
Okay. Well, next week, mark down some more.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Don.
Thank you.
Andrew, go ahead.
All right. Can you hear me okay? I had to switch microphones because my headset died.
Oh,
go ahead.
All righty. So first of all, we were talking about paint. Sherman-Williams, Porter Paint, Glidden, local paint stores, not just local hardware stores. They'll have mist tints too, and they'll sell them for a couple of bucks. The question I had is when I'm fogging with a propane fogger, how many drops of wintergreen to each pint of food grade mineral oil?
If you're going to use wintergreen for a fogging agent, you'd probably go 20, 25 drops.
For a
if
pint?
You're going to use menthol, you could probably go, you know, a quarter of a teaspoon, but he has to be completely mixed up.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you. That was it.
Okay. Patricia, go ahead.
Yeah, for the lady with the paint question, any good latex water-based exterior paint is excellent, but what I like to do, but you know, women with discerning color palettes, I buy a 1 gallon of white, and then I go to Walmart and I get the little 2-ounce tulip paints in their craft section, and I taint all of my white different shades, and my boxes are all different colors, and I kind of like that. So don't get the bizarre green or brown or whatever at Lowe's if you don't like it. Buy white and tint it in the color you want. That's all.
Now people talking about paint, I've done a video showing a bunch of paint, and I always thought paint, exterior, interior, there's a big difference. It's basically the same paint. I had a representative from Pittsburgh Paints explain to me, interior paint has got less latex in it as long as it's water-based. Exterior has more latex and it has a mildew inhibitor. And another guy asked me a few weeks ago, do I prime my boxes? I have not primed boxes in 60 years. If you worry about priming boxes, take any kind of paint, latex paint, add a little more water to it, thin it down, it'll act as a primer. It'll soak into there. So don't have to buy expensive paint. If you can get oil-based paint and free, and rather than buy mineral spirits to thin it, what I usually do is I go to Harbor Freight and I buy a box of chip brushes. You get 36 of them for about $8. Use that small brush, paint it, throw the brush away. Oil-based will last for years, but you cannot put oil-based over latex. It has to be on new wood or, you know, a wood that's been primed. Or you can take mineral spirits and thin it down and do a primer. It's better paint, but it's harder to clean up and it's sticky on your hands. If you get it on your hands or get it anywhere near, you make a mess. Latex is your best. Stains, if you can use them. I get stains, but I don't care for them. They don't penetrate the wood good, and they don't have much protection for your wood. And that's about what I think on your paints. And if you get a gallon of paint for $10 and a gallon for $100, I haven't seen no difference in them other than name brands.
Okay. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, just do any of you have your hives in your yard in a place that's in close proximity to where you need to mow grass And have you had any trouble with your lawnmower and the bees?
Set your rows far enough that you can drive through. I run a weed whacker up under my hives when I got time. But if you're weed whacking, you're killing your honey flow. Get your rows about 5-6 foot apart and go through there slow. If they bother you, put it in high gear. Get going.
Okay, I know we're already over, so I'll just go with just one other quick question. If you've got 2 brood boxes on, and then
his mic died on him.
Did it?
No, I can hear him.
Okay. If you've got 2 brood boxes and then you put a honey super on top of there, what are your view on a top entry into that honey super? Good idea, not good idea? What do you think?
Well, I drill all my boxes. And if you're worried about them robbing, put a piece of screen over them. Some of the boxes we get drilled, we don't put screen on them. It makes a hive a little more defensive.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for your input.
All right, got one more question from Joe Millwood. Go ahead.
Hey Don, that incubator you're showing earlier. Now you said that was an egg incubator.
Right.
You showed the cells, so you grafted in the cells. I'm assuming you put those cells in a hive and let them draw those cells out?
Well, you get them to draw them out to where they close them, about 9 or 10 days, and then you transfer them into your incubator. And that way you don't need no bees in there. You can take them in the house, set it up on your temperature. It's got a temperature control, everything. It's not a bad setup if you're going to do lots of grafting. But if you just got if you got less than 25 hives, you're wasting your time to graft. Cut cells and you'll do better.
How is that beneficial, the incubator? How's that beneficial over putting them in another, just leave them in the hive until they're ready to go into?
This here, we can run 500 in there and do it out every other day.
So it just frees up cell builders, basically?
Yeah, basically. As soon as they're capped, we pull them.
All right. Cool deal. I appreciate it.
Less resources.
Okay, then I guess that'll call it for tonight.
Okay.
We're a little bit over, so thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you on Facebook.
Okay.
Adios.